Okay, we're live. I think I've lost count. I think it's the 34th edition, maybe the 35th. I might have to go and check. Today, I'm very happy to have Paul Rankin join the show, talking about team topologies and data product drops. So, Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. 35. How come it's taken so long?
I only started about 7 months ago. Originally, I thought I'd just do it monthly, but there was too many people to talk to share their stories. So they pretty much been every week, apart from the odd one for holiday breaks and things like that. I think I missed one because of skid locations. But so probably a bit of background. So Paul, we had the pleasure of meeting at Big Data London, and also more recently at the skid conference we did in Verbier, where you did a great presentation, which some of the things we'll probably touch on today. But for those that those may not know you, do you want to give yourself a bit more of a background and share some more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Thanks very much. So myself, Paul Rankin, originally hail from Scotland. Now live in Switzerland. Pretty much been data consultancy most of my professional career. Switched a few times back and forward from client to vendor. More recently, some of you may know, I worked at Roche for a number of years, responsible for bringing their data strategy forward. Recently left, and now I'm a freelancer helping a number of companies with their data strategy. So that's a quick intro about me, Chris.
And so you recently presented with your wingman on the event, Omar, who is also at Roche, and I think we'll probably have him on another show later. But I think that the topic today is everyone focuses on the technology, but we all know that it's really the people that's the challenging part in successful delivery of our data products or our objectives in the data world. So maybe a brief introduction into team topologies. So how would you describe a team topology, and why should we be interested as well?
Yeah, exactly, Chris. Like you just said, people, are usually too quick to focus on, the technologies. And when we started, I admit I was the same. I wanted to start looking at the architecture, looking at the technologies, how we could get from, data warehouses to data products, data lakes to data products. And then, I quickly realized that, the technology part is pretty not easy, but it's easier to solve in terms of there is not so many external influences, if you like. You know exactly kind of what you're trying to do. Yes, it requires a little bit of planning, a little bit of skilled people to put it all together, but actually what does really make it successful, as you said, is the teams part of it. It's a people person. Somebody said to me, it's data is a team sport, essentially, and it relies on the people that you're working with, and that includes business and IT, to really buy into this data product concept. And some of the people that I've been working with recently, have told me, we've been building data products for years. And their definition of a data product is absolutely, their definition of it, and probably their company's definition of a data product. But what we need to move to is, I suppose, is what the value of we know as a data product. What can that bring? And to bring the people along, everybody has to have the same understanding of, clearly what the data product is and the value that it can bring to them. And that's the hard bit. I think that everybody clearly first has their own definition of what they think a data product is. And, then you need everybody kind of going in the same direction to understand, okay, yes, data products can help the company and help everyone, move to what we want, essentially, as a data-driven organization, where everybody's living and breathing the let's call it the FAIR principles, and what data can really unlock in terms of value for the organization. So that's the difficult part. Yeah, like you say, technology has moved on quite a lot in the last 5 years, that actually now we can do a lot of things we couldn't do previously. Things that were a problem then are not so much of a problem now.
So and we can go into details of what we think a data product or data product isn't, but I think we all agree it's a data product mentality, or data product methodology is the first step to getting towards defining really what that product is to each individual person or stakeholder in the business. And I think we touched on it before, or part of the presentation, talk about there's the machine that creates these abilities to live the product. There's that definition of what the product is. It's your sausage machine, so to speak. Then there's also the sausages that are being created in whatever flavor you want, your vegan sausages or your pork sausages, or whichever one that is going to satisfy the end client that you're looking for. So but we have this balance between centralization and I think I've referred to it in the past as the centralization wars. The decentralized versus the centralized, and it's always a land grab being made on one side or the other, and we've been trying to find that sweet spot between the two of them. So and it's normally the team thing that is that problem, because not a clear understanding of who owns what part of the process. So
exactly,
how do we solve that problem?
Yeah. So those of you who were at SCID or maybe have heard some of my talks before, hear me talk about this Conway's law, and I think that Manuel Paez, in his book of team topologies, a great book, by the way, if you haven't read it yet, and he talks about this thing called Conway's law. It's a very old law from way back in the 1970s, 80s maybe. Mel Conway, and he says that essentially most architectures are defined by the organizational structure rather than the other way around. So essentially, if you have a centralized data warehouse team, in your org structure, and maybe a central front end team and a central back end team, then your architecture is going to be designed, by your org structure. And ideally, what you want, especially when you're coming to more of a decentralized architecture of data products, you want these cross-functional teams essentially to deliver you stream-aligned value. And this cannot be squeezed into the current org structure, because what you end up with really is then a team that's delivering essentially data modeling, then a team that's delivering ingestion, a team that's delivering your reporting and whatever, and that kind of is an anti-pattern to how data products should be delivered, and that is through this cross-functional team that is really has the autonomy and the boundaries to deliver stream-aligned data products. So this is thinking about this team topology. How do we really get past that, the blockage of the org structure? And this is really difficult. I mean, do not underestimate how difficult this is. I mean, there's teams that I'm working with just now, really find this impossible. And a good example is it's not just their org structure, but the whole process of getting money, budget to deliver is all wrapped up in this whole project mandate, and the org structure is dictated by the project, so they get the money and that's assigned to the org, and now we're expecting cross IT and business teams to deliver data products, but the money can't go to this team, so it really is difficult.
Yeah, and we've seen this many times before when you've got that very much different business units that are defining different things. No one wants to pay for anything else, even though if you were to step back and say, look, actually, it makes sense for this thing to be reusable and these things to be enablers for other projects later. But no one wants to be that first one that goes and picks up the bill for it. So, yeah, and again, that goes back to that organization structure piece. So, I think a note I just made there is that, there's an org structure in an organization, and then there's the org structure. So the people that actually can make things happen and get things done, the people with a bigger bark or the risk appetite to take on something, or happy to buy into a vision of, they know that this is going to create other force multiplier effects of other activities that they can maybe deliver selfishly on their roadmap, but happy to share it with others. So it is tough. So how do we find these boundaries to say, okay, we're going to have this as a centralized architecture, and does that actually go back to that Conway's law? Another point was the data model also follows that structure as well. So if you can actually get your org structure to be aligned to a product and also the associated data model as well, then are we trying to do too much with that one go?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you can do it for some areas, yeah. But if you're really trying to deliver, let's call it a distributed architecture model, where data products are delivered by cross-functional teams, owned by the business, but predominantly staffed by IT, maybe or maybe not. I really think that this is impossible for a lot of organizations to reorg, their structure to fit this delivery. And what I would say is, do we have to? Do organizations have to do this to succeed? I think they do not have to. If we can get around the budget assignment, the treating projects assignment. I mean, a lot of companies are still delivering projects, and now we're automatically talking about products, yeah. And how do we switch from that whole process? So that's one thing that we probably could move that would help it, switching the whole project mindset to a product mindset. That is something. And then I think the things that traditional IT companies can change, or traditional IT organizations, I'm talking about central IT here more than anything, how they can change to bring their value to this whole delivery model. And I think that we can change, certainly, because a lot of companies are still, like I said, set up in this monolithic org structure. So a data warehouse team, a central BI team. I'm working with an organization just now that still has a central BI team that is doing everything, actually, from ingestion to reporting, just like the old days when we used to do it with Cognos or business objects. So a lot of companies really still have this. And so when you go back to your question, yes, I think these teams, in central, the central IT organization can quite easily restructure themselves, right, to then position themselves as more of this data platform that we're talking about all the time. This modern data platform stack. They can reorg themselves that way, and split themselves up into, if you follow the team topology methodology and principles, they can then reorg themselves into platform teams, into enablement teams, and into facilitating teams, complex subsystem teams, these kind of things. Yeah, so they can reorg themselves that way and provide these services in terms of API services or enablement facilitation services, or directly to these data product teams that are delivering the data product. So then you end up So if they manage to do that, then you end up with quite a good model of not changing your whole org, but essentially reshuffling your IT part to then, what they're delivering.
So for creating services or business services that are then used for that self-serve provisioning that enables those products to not be dependent on a central team and then be blocked, which was the old sort of challenge that was always called out, and probably in most cases quite rightly, but others sometimes the product team didn't know what they were doing, so they would just say we're blocked. So, and I think so. So one thing that really helps with that is you have to start small, and and when you have a smaller team or you want to start creating this understanding, what are the common activities that are being performed that you should centralize, but building it in a way that, okay, we know at some point we're going to take away these access rights or these privileges. At the moment you're okay. Because the problem is, if you don't set that scene now, when you do go and take it away, there's too much in. They've gone too rogue. There's no way of pulling it back. So I think understanding, go say, look, there's no guardrail. The guardrails are set here. There's a roadmap. We'll be moving these things here. Be prepared for it. But having that, I think I use the term the architecture runway of that. Knowing what your maturity of when you're going to centralize, and when you're going to pull things back, and then when you're going to allow more self-sufficient, less requests, and it's that journey that's the challenge, isn't it? Basically, that navigating that journey.
Yeah, it is, but it's I think instead of setting, and that's where I suppose the old communications OCM type of team really works, and spinning it away that is really, I suppose, a benefit for these teams that were always used to doing these things themselves. I mean, if you ask, certainly in Roche where I was working, if you ask most of these people, they don't really want to do it. They've had to do it in the past, for one reason or the other, but they don't really want to have to manage, access groups. They don't have to want to manage, security. They don't want to have to manage decryption and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they really just want to get on with the business value side of things, and that is where we need to change, the central IT function to redefine ourselves, into this, as you said, services. Capability. And this data platform, this is we call it multi-modality data platform, that serves different types of modalities when it comes to offering data. And that can be anything from IoT, streaming data to, ERP batch data to metering data from assets. These are different types of modalities that we talk about. And they should not be trying to reinvent the wheel for every time they come across that same modality. This should be a service that the data platform is offering, and really we can play a huge role in reorganizing our data platform team into this team topology, where every smaller team that makes up this data platform really understands the role, really understands their service offering, whether it's a complete self-service or whether it's a facilitation service or a collaboration service. They need to really understand that. And that's where we can really step up the game.
Yeah. I think I'd like to use the term of fast friction, and I'll probably use this term, but it's looking at where there is that friction in that delivery process, and again, like a lot of engineers, they want to automate everything, but not everything's the right thing to automate. So I think understanding how each of the team is performing their part of the process, so like, oh well, look, actually, if we join these two things together, or I provided this service, would that make you more efficient? Would that? And it's all comes down to estimating, and I think that's a really good thing. Sometimes using it is, if you can't evidence it, you're not able to, you can't go and prove it. So to be able to say, look, before it's taken this many story points to do this particular activity, now, if I provided this, this means you can actually don't have to do a dependency on our team. How much quicker are you going to move? There's a good reason for you to then go and provide that business service. So I think it's looking for those opportunities. I think is another thing that can help.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you speak to Manu Paez, he says that on a platform team, your ultimate goal is to make everything a self-service. Yeah, and I mean, clearly you're not going to get there, straight away. But the more and more you can, then that is your ultimate goal, because then there is a clear service that you're offering. There's a clear path, for interaction for your users, your stakeholders. And then, if it's clear and if it's completely, I suppose fitting their needs, they should be able to do it self-service. And I think that should be the ultimate goal for any platform team, that you essentially get rid of your second level support, if you like. Yeah. That people are not needing to request that extra level. I know it's easier said than done, and even in Roche we never quite got there. But I think you need to have that goal.
That North Star. I mean, some stuff we're looking at the moment is providing, and I think it's that authorization process that's actually needed. So if you make a nice, a Snowflake Streamlit app that is able to perform some of the tasks that you put all the security wrappers into it, or the guardrails have been baked into it, they're able to do that. It's a simple pull request that said, maybe using ServiceNow for just a simple sort of, okay, that's approved. You still have that complete, loop in the chain for that self-service, but it's all been automated, and it's been deployed in the correct way, and the user happy that they do that. And so
it's not easy. We're not saying it's easy, but if you put enough thought into it and work in to make it, like you said, automated, you only have to do this once. And then you scale it. Absolutely, no problem. And usually there is about 10 or 12 different technologies involved in approving and authorizing access to a data product, by the way. But so just let me usually.
We don't do these things because they're easy. We do things we thought they were easy. It's normally the case, isn't it? So.
Exactly. Let's have automated approval for access control, and then start doing it. And then you're dealing with ServiceNow, you're dealing with Libra, you're dealing with Snowflake or SP, and then you're like, oh my god.
How many different teams I need to get to actually go and deliver what looked like was a simple request. Exactly. I think we'll go back to one of the statements we made earlier, and obviously we're talking about data products, and there's many definitions, there's many views on it. There's the extreme view of a data product has to have a SKU. I was of that mind that it's a real product, or the opposite end of the spectrum is a data product is delivering some optimization or some activity that is making the world your company a better place. So there's a one end of the spectrum to the other. So how would you describe, when you talk about data product in your mind, what are you default? What's your definition of it?
Well, I think, like you say, you can go with the technical definition, and clearly for me, the technical definition is your data product architecture model, with all your interaction points, so that if you said, I want to delete this data product, then you have some kind of process that tells you every single, piece of the architecture model that you need to delete. That, from a technical perspective, is a definition. Absolutely. You can go with the value definition, and that is, a data product really there has to be a reason to build it. Absolutely. Yeah, there has to be a business value. And I think that's often what people miss in the world of data products, is going straight to the technology. Automatically that's their default. is to start ingesting, let's pick up Tableau, start ingesting data, doing some data modeling, and output my final data set. That's what people, that's their default, if you like. I have to give real praise and credit to my team at Roche. And 3 years ago, we were going through this journey as well at Roche, like everyone else. We were trying to find actually, what does Shamak mean by a data product, or what are the what is it really? Is it a tangible thing? Yes, we've seen the characteristics, but what does that mean? Is it just like a kind of a redefined fair, characteristics? And yes, some people say that's their definition of a data product. It has to meet all these characteristics. And that is, absolutely right. If you say, okay, we're going to implement data products, they must meet all these characteristics. That is a good start. To me, it starts with the value, and that is something I think that you need to put the importance on. Yeah, if you cannot define a value, or if you cannot continuously measure the value of a data product, then it's nothing more than what previously existed forever in our data warehouse. Yeah, and I think you must understand that life cycle process before you even start. Yeah. And you need ways to measure the value. Clearly, you cannot just say, I think this is going to save me, $1 million on my stock rotation or whatever. You need to be able to put processes in to understand that value and to be able to continuously measure it. And obviously with a view to deprecating the life cycle, to deleting your data product, essentially, if it's not providing enough value. And that whole cost value thing is really important. And, like I say, huge, I must, credit my team at Roche for helping us do this, because we really did a lot of work, on this at Roche. So absolutely, it's the most important thing, I would say. Yeah, the value statement.
And I think you just touched on something there, is that cost element, and also knowing when to sunset a product, or knowing when the effort is not worth the reward. And I think there's seen too many cases where maybe the sales team have gone and sold something to the end customer, without even consulting what even going to be the running cost of it, let alone the build cost. And then you're in a situation there. Well, there is actually no value in delivering that, and it's normally not being thought of as a proper product, because back in the day, we had to have old CapEx days, when you had to go and do a very detailed plan to go and justify your spend. You had to do that sort of analysis to go and get that funding. But I think the world of consumption, OPEX, it sort of became a bit of we'll add some value on the way, and not always succeeded with it.
Absolutely, I think that's a big difference. And like you mentioned it right at the start, it's this product thinking, this product mindset. We need to take this product mindset, for things like anything, chocolate bars, I mean, why do we cease to I mean, what was it, double deckers or Starbursts or whatever back in the day? We don't see them anymore because nobody was buying them. Someone decided, actually, we're not going to make them anymore. We need to get that mindset, to data, basically.
And I think it's an interesting thought. If you think of your company serves for a purpose, whatever your organization is. So your company is a product. It's creating, whether it's for a service or something, it can be thought of as it is a product that people are buying. Whether it's a physical, tangible object, or if it's the service you're providing, your whole company is that. And I always think that something that's missing as well is that we never really have proper business processes defined in large organizations, because it changes so much over time. To your point, Ed, about Conway's law as well, is the business process, probably now are aligned to an old org structure, which doesn't actually align to the new org structure, but you still have to try and use this process. And I think because that process is never actually I've seen it done a few times. It's normally large-scale transformations where there's been a large merge or demerge, and they've had to get some people in to actually work out, where you're going to use each part of the company. What I haven't seen, I mean, afterwards, it's never really maintained. I think it's difficult. It's an overhead, but it's very rarely, metadata driven and maintained. And I think that's something that for organizations, I think it's a missing thing that's out there. And we talk about aligning the teams. If you're able to, when you're aligning those teams as well to some business processes, and maybe start in areas that are in your control in your organization, but by doing that, the point you made earlier about the evidencing the ROI, the business value, whatever you want to call it, but evidencing the improvements you've made, it just makes your team have that autonomy to go and do the next project without having as much friction in requesting additional budget for it. I think so.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing, and I go back to your initial question of do we need to change our org structure? Like you said, the org structure will change probably 4 or 5 times, before we go on to the next big thing, which is not data products. So we definitely don't need to change the whole org structure, and I think that's the whole point that Conway says, is actually, if you try to follow your org structure, you will end up with an architecture or a strategy that is similar to what your org structure is. And that's okay if you want a centralized data warehouse and your org structure is aligned to that, and absolutely is fine. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be easy. But if you don't, then you need to find ways of delivering your strategy, without changing your org structure. And that's where the team topology really comes in, is it has to, complement your strategy, not your org structure.
And something, you're flipping it on the head, really. Is everything you're doing is for your customer, the person buying it. So your team should really reflect how you deliver to that customer and how you enable it. But the org part is just how you authorize or sign off the ability to deliver that. So, even in our organization as we go, we haven't nailed it either. So it's an evolving thing.
It sounds easy, doesn't it?
Exactly.
I present this to some people in companies, and they're like, "Well, this sounds just so easy. Yeah, why?" You're like, "Well, why have you not done it then?"
Yeah, true. And I think on that, just ending on that, really, the data product is, everything always needs to be linked to the business strategy or business objective. So, I think that really does help. What your product should be focused on, or what you need to enable. It may be that these are products we're talking about that enable the delivery of products, but anything should be mapped up to what the business objectives are. And then I suppose this is the other challenge that we have, is that unfortunately companies or employees are rewarded based on the organization structure. So it's how you, maybe that's how they maybe change remuneration organizations. Really, it should be focused on the delivery of the products within that area of the business. But that's it. I suppose incentivization is hard in organizations where you can't really link it to what they're doing within the business.
Yeah, and I think this is maybe something to do with, in the past that, the central BI teams, traditionally have been actually quite far away from the business, and aligning with the business objectives. They've been in their own little, they know the data that the business need. So, they know how to model it, they know how to ingest it, they know how to historize it, et cetera, et cetera. But, they've really been so far away from those particular, use cases, there's business value use cases that actually make the company, money at the end of the day, or saves them time and effort. And we need to get back to being closer, to that.
I think you're spot on, and some thinking I've been home recently, and linked to this whole modern data stack is dead, and the fact that we've called it the modern data stack, it's been the big data platform, it's been the data warehouse, it's been the Excel sheet, it's been the Lotus 1, 2, 3. We've reinvented, and I think from a marketing perspective, because of failures, and you don't normally get the incentivization from an org to go and do something new unless you've actually given it a new name. But you look at the operational world, there's not like CRM2 or CRMPX or giving it extra names and that, or there's ERPs have been ERPs. They don't. Maybe they had a bit of the microservice era, the SOA era, but they don't. You don't hear as much of like SOA's dead, microservices dead. API gateways are dead, or they just get on with it, the operational world. But if you think of, I think if we want to stop reinventing what we do in our space, if we just say, okay, we've got an operational platform, we've got a data platform that delivers that the analytics on that operational system that's driven by one cog, that's the business, because we're all in one platform. We've only got one ops. He's just ops. He's not DevOps. And then I know this. And they're all baked in. I know I'm looking at this oasis that's in the distance that we're never going to find. But if we want to see that, if the world's much simpler, business talking to the same people, delivering the same operational platform, and think of the analytics at the same time, cross-functional teams that actually able to give both sides of it. I think one of the blockers is the technology. It's been very different. I think, but HTAP, what do they call it? Hybrid transactional analytical platform. So someone nails that, it'll bring the two worlds together. The data world will just be we combined with the operational world.
Yeah, we have to have something to talk about, we have to, we love to brand these things, and Gartner needs something to present at the next summit,
Well, I think they came up in 2014, I think, actually. So it's already 10 years old anyway, and no one's nailed it yet. So, but at least it's not dead yet, though. No one's killed it. So this is a good sign. It hasn't been widely adopted, but no one's killed it yet.
I mean, if you don't. I don't really, I don't take these things too seriously. I think you got to look at the principles that work for your organization, and you cannot say, okay, data mesh or data fabric or whatever is the answer to everybody's problems, decentralized or centralized. You have to look at your organization. You have to look at the culture. It's a huge thing, and team topologies is closely linked to the culture of the organization. And to find what principles really work for you. If your organization is trying to deliver a centralized, data and analytics environment, but your organization is very decentralized by nature and by culture, then there's something not quite aligned there. So, I think you should not get too caught up in the whole, data mesh, data fabric, like you said, hybrid operations approach. But you take the things that work for you. If a data product will work for you, then go for it. If it doesn't, and you're back to data sets and a data centralized data warehouse, then go for it. But you have to understand your company and your organization. And I think that a lot of the problems is IT have driven a lot of these things, because it suited IT, and I'm not going to, okay, I'll say it. I'll blame enterprise architects for a lot of these
Oh,
problems,
yes.
okay? And maybe I lose a lot of people in the call right now, but,
No, I may have upset some people as well, but I can relate. I think I say the ivory tower, the enterprise in architects in the ivory towers. They haven't seen what's actually really going on, but they can draw a very good diagram and name some IBM technologies that are going to solve all the problems. But reality was far from the truth. But I think Val's just done a thing here, a common sense approach, which it's a dying skill out there nowadays. I think we need a bit more of that nowadays. I think Val's on the show the week after next. We've got the bank holiday next week, so I'm not sure we know what the title is yet, but I'm sure it'll be an interesting chat. I think it's one of the next things I want to touch on. I always like to think it's the right approach for the right organisation at the right maturity at the right time, and that will change over time. And
maturity. Don't get me started on maturity. That's a different.
I'm still trying to be mature myself, but I've been at it many years. But I think it's the communication and collaboration patterns. So different organisations, again to the org structure aspect, and maybe on the culture in an organisation, there'll be different approaches. So how have you seen, what sort of patterns would you seen for the best way for that communication and collaboration in an organisation to help adopt that team topology or a wider data product, a way of working?
Yeah, I mean, I really have seen, opposite ends of the spectrum. One where the business is a lot more, like you say, mature than IT now. So the business have really gone boom. They understand essentially the importance of data, how to treat it as a first-class citizen, if you like, how to make the best out of it, how to reuse it properly, how to trust it within, but usually it's within their own domain. Yeah. So one domain, has really, really understood this, really spent and invested a lot of time in, cleaning their data, make sure it's of quality, it's trustworthy, it's reusable, that it can accelerate their journey. Yeah. So that is kind of, really one extreme where then, IT have really lost all stake in that, in that game for that particular domain. Because they don't need to be reliant on traditional IT. They are no longer relying for their servers, and no longer relying for their compute or their skills, or their governance. Now it's really now business is managing all this, and I think that is one extreme, and then the other extreme is people still reliant on IT to do everything. To do all their infrastructure, to do all their modeling, and also, which I find incredible, is to tell them how to manage their business, and I find that a company that I do work for at the moment, it's business are calling IT and saying, okay, how should I treat my customers in terms of relationships with my products and this and that, So it's basically IT are understanding the business or that business area more or better than the business. And to me, that should not be the case. I mean, we are moved far away from that world. And I think we need to find a balance, like you said. What's IT's role in the future delivery of data? Whether it's a product or whether you call it whatever you want, but what is IT's role, and how do we collaborate with the business, going forward? And I think this is a big part of a lot of the stuff that I'm doing just now is redefining IT and their value. The central data warehouse team, or the central BI team, or whatever you want to call it. How do you redefine that topology and that value so that business can now collaborate and they can trust? Essentially, the trust brings back, and then what you do is you're moving some of the extremes that I talked about in IT doing everything. You're moving some of that more to the right, And then if you have business, on the other side that are doing everything, you're moving some of their reliance and capabilities moving back to IT. So then you become, a little bit more of a central, like I say, you're offering services, capabilities, and letting IT focus on the business value. Let them build their pipelines. They understand the business logic. They understand, the frequency that's needed. They understand the access that's required. Let them do it. Yeah, what you need to do is make it easy for them to do. Yep, as a central IT team, and that's where we need to get to. Yeah,
and I think it's I suppose we talk about the data warehouse days, the BI team. A lot of them, the unsung heroes of the data that the sales team when it made their forecast on, or the accounts team how they did their budgeting from it, and I think what didn't happen is it wasn't quite understood what the teams were doing, but also that we never actually had that platform to communicate the successes and also provide that shop window of what can be achieved. And I think anything with businesses and within a company is your best referral or reference is one of your clients saying something, or someone else in the department saying, "My God, this team did this quick, and now I'm able to save this, and now we've just won this extra deal or something like that." And I think it's having that platform that's not too, and there's always a balance of it being a very monologue sort of look at us, but I think in a less formal way. I think this is where face to face always helps, even if it's like a team or an on-site location. Is having like a lesson learned. Play back the successes, and I think those can open doors and open adoption for that way of working, and also probably find that next bit of optimization that you can put in place that just makes you more effective.
Absolutely. I think that the data platform team, there is a danger of when you're creating this data platform team that then this becomes the central ivory tower governance as well as processes, and you must do it this way, boom 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 boom. So that there is a danger of kind of slipping into that mode. But this is what I mean is about product thinking. Not only is your data product team's got to start thinking products and data products, but your platform team has to start thinking as a product as well. Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes.
And you're listening to your users and what they need, from your platform. And this is the capabilities that you should be focusing on, not just you think that a large language model will be cool, so you go and build an interface to the data, because it's exciting and it's current. You need to understand what your teams need from your product, and this is often quite difficult for traditional data warehouse teams, data lake teams, BI teams.
And it's something I've challenged myself as well. It's focus. So within an organization themselves and I think focus is not, and I think I watched something the other day on this, focus isn't the ability to, so it's actually the ability to say no to things, not because you don't want to do them, but it's actually because it's not the right thing to do. And I think, as teams or as data professionals, sometimes, this thing looks a bit shinier, nicer, and easier. I don't really want to do that. But sometimes the thing you don't really want to do is actually the thing you should be focusing on. And we're all humans, so unfortunately, it sometimes takes that's that leader or someone that is say, okay, look, no, we're doing this because of this, keep hang tight, and we'll get on to that. But that's hard to do in an organization as well.
Yeah, and I used to tell my teams that really you need to understand your customers. What do they want? What do they need to make them successful? To make them accelerate their journey. And hey, if 80% of your organization is consuming data, using Excel, we need to, we need to deliver that clearly. Yes, we can start to show them different ways, and maybe there is better ways. But if they're demanding, this is what they need to make the organization successful, then we need to understand that. And that is something that I think we as IT professionals are too quick to dismiss. Oh no, you don't do it this way. We've got a better way for doing it. But if they're not getting what they want, then guess what? They're not going to use your platform or your services. They're going to go away and phone Accenture or Deloitte or Light and say, guys, can you maybe come and build us an interface, so we can use Excel?
Exactly. They'll work around the problem, and I think it's that understanding, that communication thing again is, okay, when you're having that discussion about the requirements, okay, well, like for example, I think Jesse Anderson on the other day, and he was talking about, I want it real time. Well, yeah, we can go and do that. And or you have a conversation, why do you want it real time? Is every hour okay? Yeah, probably every hour is all right. Well, actually, maybe only every 24. Yeah, maybe they don't use it until then. It's just for this. So yeah, every 24.
Yeah.
So you've gone from immediately having this requirement to having something real time that would cost you 250 or X amount, and now you've got something. Okay, that the existing way we've got, which doesn't cost any more, will still actually meet your requirements. So and it's again that product mentality is able to have that conversation that you can actually get the right requirements and deliver the right amount of value.
Yeah, and I think this really works well in this cross-functional data product team setup, because you have people that have all the right understanding of the requirements. Yeah, it's not just business chucking over requirements to IT. It's actually IT and business working in one team, one stream-aligned team. And there a lot of these problems previously that we saw between business and IT are immediately eroded with this this cross-functional data product team setup.
Yeah. So I think probably the last thing that and quite naturally, I think it's the last thing we had on those bullets as well, was I think the whole drops part of this as well is I think I've referred to this before, is that your ability to move at pace is what gives you a competitive advantage, and that competitive advantage is the ability, and I think you've talked about this before, of how many products you were able to release and how quickly, and how the other end of the spectrum of where you got to. So and it's but going from 0 to 90. It's how do you actually define that journey, and how do you actually measure, okay, well, this is the area that we need to increase our speed, or this is the team that needs to change their way of working?
I mean, it's not easy. Let me tell you that, and especially in the early days where we didn't really understand what a data product was, and how to deliver it. It was even more difficult when we were just trying a little bit of trial and error here and there, and trying to decide what was working and what wasn't working, and what we should adopt and what not to adopt. But in terms of, I suppose, if you go down the purest data mesh route, obviously your data mesh does not become instantly valuable until you have a certain amount of products that people can reuse to build upon. Clearly that is something that takes time, and the more and more products that you have there ready to be reused, then the more valuable it does become. And ultimately, what you rightly say, what you want is trusted, reusable products that people can use to build further insights or further data products to help accelerate their journey. So they don't have to build the whole ingestion right from the beginning. There's already someone who's done this. It's a trusted source. It's available, etc., etc. So I've seen two kind of more common approaches if you're starting, like you said, at 0. usually what happens if it's driven by IT say to the data warehouse team, right? Okay, data warehouse team, now you're going to build all these source-orientated data products, yeah, ready to be reused. That's usually what happens, yeah. And then it becomes nothing more than a central monolithic team, building, let's call them source-aligned data products.
Yeah.
Is that any better than what was there before? Maybe it's got some additional metadata around it, maybe, yeah. But probably not much more than that. People can still, access it, use it, find it. So it clearly accelerates the journey, because kind of in a short space of time, they now have 200, 300 source aligned data products that they can reuse. But usually they're all owned and managed by the same team that traditionally owned the data warehouse. So is it better? It works, clearly. Probably not much better than before. I think what you have to consider is really starting at the value or business value, and we go back to the business value. Is really identifying business value and working your way back. And if this results in 100 source aligned data products getting built, then great. But I think that if you start at the source, then I don't.
It's more of a vanity project rather than actually a sanity project.
Could be.
I think you're right in looking at, it's combining, isn't it? It's combining different data sets, and rather than looking at the system, so okay, what data combined is going to solve a problem for you. And it reminds me of the old days of doing the bus matrix.
Exactly.
Your fact, your dimension. You go, no, if I build this extra dimension, I got this more insight. The good old days.
It definitely was. I mean, we a lot of these principles from the old days, still exist. Absolutely, and we should. You look at all the most successful, people today. Yeah, they all started, you, including yourself, in that. You all started with Cognos or SaaS or business objects. Understanding the business value you were delivering. Yeah. And we're kind of going back to that. We kind of lost that, in the process, because then we started splitting everyone into separate teams, But now we're now really going back to that. Yes, we're adding a lot more, a lot more foundation to it. But, and we've got a lot better technology now than we did have. But, the principles are still hold true.
I agree. I think it's the era of simplification at the moment. So this is like the next part is that not reinventing the wheel, using patterns. Using I think everyone crawl, walk, run. I think it's the latest one that we're talking. You start small and iterate. So I think we're approaching. I've got a client. I've got a call in 2 minutes with a client as well. So
absolutely.
But Paul, thank you very much for coming on the show, and thank you very much for talking at Skid as well. I think the good or bad news is I think we're doing it again. It won't be in Verbier. It looks like it could be in Austria, so a little bit cheaper. And we've rebranded, called the Winter Data Conference, showing the maturity of the event as well. So
sign me up. Sign me up already. I'll be there. Absolutely.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. So maybe if you want to, anyone wants to get hold of you and tap onto your knowledge on this area, how do they get hold of you? Or
absolutely. I mean, just look me up in LinkedIn. Send me a chat, and absolutely happy to just a friendly chat, or support them in more of a professional capacity. Then delighted to do that.
Well, I'm looking forward to catching up again soon. Hopefully, I'll see you at Big Data London.
Will do. I'll be there, Chris.
All right, brilliant. Well, thanks again for being on the show. And I say the next show is going to be in 2 weeks' time. We're going to have Val on here, adding value with Val. Maybe that's the title of the show. Maybe we'll do that. But thanks again, everyone, and speak to you soon.
Excellent. Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers, then.